Yeah, when I joined banking, the conditions there were not very accommodating to women, and they were not very supportive, both as employees and as customers, because at that time the banking laws were still based on the Napoleonic Code and the Victorian property laws. So women didn't have contractual rights to enter into agreements and contracts. So they had to get somebody else. Yes, and you see, once you're considered a minor, you are excluded. Yeah, so women were really outsiders. In banking, they were the untouchables. Nobody could really give loans to women. The way they treated women, for example, there was a woman who came, a businesswoman, an outstanding woman, very competent. She needed a loan to buy a car. But because she was a woman, they needed her to get her husband to sign. She was a single woman at that particular time. She was a mother of girls. So really, she didn't have anybody. And I couldn't see why they should deny her a loan just because she didn't have a male to come and stand for her. So I challenged that, and I gave her a loan. Of course, my career was on the on a line. And then also the girls in the bank, I mean, there were some very intelligent women, but they had just resigned themselves to clerical work. So I started Barclays Bank Women's Association to mentor these girls. It was also very risky because I remember I was called in head office and I was told, you are starting a union in the bank. And I said, no, this is not a union, we're just doing social work here. Yeah, so those were things I had to challenge in the system so that at least women could move forward. At that time, Barclays was definitely ahead because they were, I mean, the first woman bank manager came from Barclays. And also, we had some very forward-looking people in Barclays. I remember Mr. T.D. Miles, the managing director, who allowed me to attend meetings outside the country. After the 1975 UN conference in Mexico, there were many meetings outside about the women's status and promotion of women. And he allowed me to participate, and whenever I came, I used the information and the knowledge I had acquired to help, encourage and motivate women to not accept the status quo. From there were conventions, and there were many other meetings and conferences on the status of women. And I think that awakened the minds of the government people to look at the status of women, to try and create an enabling environment in which women with the talents could use those talents for development. In 1994, there was a task force formed by the government on laws relating to women, and they brought together women leaders in different sectors. I had the privilege of serving on the laws, particularly relating to banking. And so we brought out all those clauses from before that restricted women's access to credit, that restricted women's ability to enter into contracts. And fortunately, those laws were changed. I think the expansion of education and women getting more and more educated has helped. And this girl-child emphasis has helped because there are more women now, and if you look around, there are many women CEOs, there are more women in managerial positions in the bank. We have had women directors. We have women chairing banks. So I think things have changed a lot. When I was at the African Development Bank, I was instrumental in setting up the policy which has been used on the continent, for women in development, making sure that women have access to capital, women to decision making, empowering women. I feel very happy about that because it wasn't very easy, but it went through and it has made changes in the continent. Women who were employed at that time were employed as tea girls or secretaries, but not very many, because at that time I think they were also using men as secretaries. Maybe clerks and cashiers, but even then there were not so many. Well, I was the first, and I think they were doing it more or less as a trial. Yes, at that time they were taking undergraduates straight from university and sending them for managerial training. I think Barclays was doing that. I don't know whether Standard Bank was doing that also. But Barclays was recruiting undergraduates. And I know two people who I had known before, who were with me at Makerere, who were ahead of me, had been taken. I think this was Bob Kacheche. Yes, and they would take them, send them to Britain for training in banking, and then they come back and they give them managerial positions. Well, the training was such that you did training in Britain, you studied the banking, the Institute of Bankers exams, then you came back and you were deployed in a managerial position. Yes, I think I came back and I was at Pioneer House. You would be like sub-manager, manager's assistant, and then finally you get into a full branch. Being the first, I had to prove that women can make it. Because if I failed, I would have failed the other women also. And they would have been saying, oh, we gave her a chance, she didn't make it. So it would have closed doors to many women. So I really had to prove that women can make it. I'll give you an example. In 77, I was promoted and sent to Westlands branch. It was a rundown branch. The morale was low. It was not making a profit. So when I went in there, I knew if I didn't turn it around, they would say, you know, look at these women. You give them an opportunity. But by the grace of God, I turned it down. We started making profit. The morale went up. Yes. Yeah, but it was all the time, you are in the spotlight. If you are the first one, everybody's looking at you. There were a few colleagues, like the late Walter Mkuria was very supportive of me whenever, you know, I was being fought. He would say, please listen, maybe this woman has something that we need to pay attention to. So there were some who, you know, who were there. But there were also many bystanders who were just watching to see whether this thing was ever going to work, that women would actually get access. The thing is that people think the environment has always been user-friendly. It hasn't. I remember when I first went into the bank, they didn't even have a toilet for women. I walked in there. This man shows me a urinal. You are a woman.
Oh my God.
You know, we've come a long way.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yes. We have also had the issue of racism. I remember when I first came, when I was a manager, these old settlers were still around. They come in, they ask, where is the manager? And you are saying you are the manager, and he dismisses you. And then you sit there, waiting for him to realize that he will have still come back. Then he comes back, and you still have to deal with him, having humiliated you, but you still have to swallow because the customer is always right. So we have come a long way. The African men didn't also know how to react to. Some would come, because I was young then, they want to treat you like their daughter. So you are asking them questions, and they want to treat you like a child. Others want to treat you like a girlfriend. You know, so you had all kinds of, so you had to be astute and know how to react to them. And remember, they are bank's clients, so you can't just be rough with them. Yeah, and you know, some come, they want to patronize you, some come, want to treat you. You know, there were all those reactions. Well, that was to help women get access to finance and capital in a user-friendly environment where women can, do their transactions without feeling harassed, without feeling that they had to seek the permission of their male counterparts. Yes, and I think it has worked. Today, the banks, the women are the darlings of banks. Yeah. Every bank has a facility for women. You go to Barclays Bank, they have facilities for women. You go to Standard, I think the divas, and all banks now have got facilities targeting women. So we have come a long way. I remember when I was in '92, at that time I was vice president of Women's World Banking in New York. And when I told them that I was coming back home to run a school, I think they thought I was crazy. No, but I'm just, you see, there are certain things that appeal to your heart. Yeah. And for me, working with children is very, it's close to my heart.